This program is brought to you by the Kentucky Small Business Development Center in Louisville. We provide the professional expertise, tools, and resources to help you succeed. To connect with a business coach, call 502-625-0123 or email sbdcinfo@uky.edu.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Dave Etkin. I'm the director of the Louisville Small Business Development Center. Thanks for joining us for another Toolkit Tuesday. Glad to have you here. If you would, just if you look at the bottom of your screen there, you'll see a little toolbar. And if you click the chat button, just so we know that you can hear us and everything's working fine, just go ahead and maybe say hello and tell us where you're joining from so we can make sure everything's working correctly. So just give that a try, see if you can see that chat button. Chat in there myself, say hello. So we got a great guest today, Amanda Berry. She is with FranNet. She is the owner here in town of FranNet. And, you know, we get a lot of requests from business owners about franchising their business. You know, they may be running a successful business and they'd like to expand a little bit. And one of the ways to expand is going into franchising, but it's kind of a daunting process sometimes. So we've asked Amanda to come in, maybe clear up some of those misconceptions and help us ask questions and figure this all out. So Amanda, welcome. It's good to see you again.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
So Amanda's a great resource. I encourage you guys to reach out to Amanda. We'll be sharing the recording later on today and her contact info through the whole thing. So Amanda, let's get right into it and talk about how we can franchise our businesses.
Absolutely. So I'm going to attempt to share screen. See how this works. Excellent. Can you see my presentation on the screen?
Got it. Looking good.
Oh, perfect. Excellent. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dave. Thank you to the SBDC for having me today. I come and do some presentations for the SBDC quite a bit, is because I'm just a big believer in their services. They have helped me tremendously in all of my business ventures. And the Louisville entrepreneurship community is a great place to be. And the SBDC is certainly a part of that. And just thank you all for having me, and also thank you for helping me in all of my businesses. So we will get right into it today. How to franchise a business. I get this question a lot. And it's really, it can be a very complicated answer. So the point of today is I want to just go over some of the basics, basic things we should be thinking about if you actually own a successful business and what it is going to take for you to franchise that business. So as Dave said, my name is Amanda Berry. I own a franchise consultancy firm here in Kentucky. I've been in the franchising community for a little over 5 years. I've owned a franchise, this one. I've also owned multiple other businesses in the non-franchise space. I absolutely love franchising for what it is. It is an amazing way to go into business using a system or a system of products that help you kind of fast forward your success. You get to kind of skip over those first couple of years of entrepreneurship. Before I owned a franchise, I spent 10 years in the federal government helping veterans with their benefits and helping them go into various business opportunities. And as I said, multiple franchise unit owner and independent business owner. So if there's a way to go into business, I've done it. So what is FranNet? So traditionally when I'm talking with you all, we're teaching these classes in the community, I'm really normally talking about the franchise consultancy part of our firm, which is where we help individuals find a franchise for them to purchase into. So we are a free service. We work with SCORE and SBDC to help clients decide, is a franchise a good fit for me from a business standpoint, and which franchise system should I go into based on my skills, and my personality type. So traditionally, we match franchisors and franchisees together. We're like the eHarmony or the Match.com of the business world. And part of that process, we do a lot of pre-screening of franchises to ensure that they meet what we consider first-class criteria. What is going to make those particular franchise units and franchisors successful, and how can we match those to our clients' goals? But we always get this question: what if I own a business already and I want to franchise it and use franchising as a means of growing my empire? Is that something you guys do? We didn't up until this year. So finally we said, you know, we have experience in this. We hear it, we see it. We are in the franchising community. We have finally partnered with another franchise advisor, has over 25 years of experience bringing brands into the franchise model. So we are going to talk a little bit about today, what does that look like for you? And is your particular business a franchisable concept? Because not everyone is, and we should do a little research to figure that out now and upfront before you spend a lot of money and time and effort. So today, what we're going to talk about, first, what is a franchise? What does that actually mean? We're going to talk about what a franchise disclosure document is. If you were thinking about franchising your business, it's going to be a very big part of what you have to put together. Number three, we're going to talk about the top 3 traits that we see that make a business a franchisable concept. Number 4, we're going to also talk about, okay, well, what is the top 5 traits of a franchise concept owner? Just because your business may have a franchise, may be franchisable, are you as the owner also part of that mix, and do you have the skill set required? Is a very important part of the journey. We're also going to show you some additional resources in the next steps if it's something interesting to you. Okay, so what is a franchise? At the end of the day, what is franchising really? A franchise is a license to use name, trademark, a product or a system in exchange for an initial franchise fee and ongoing royalties. So normally when I'm teaching these classes, I'm talking about what does that mean for you as a potential franchise user, but as a franchise creator, this means that these products, trademarks, and systems that you have and have created need to be worth the price that you're asking for, that initial franchise fee and those ongoing royalties. We're going to dig into a little bit about what that means. Again, a franchise system is a way to dominate a marketplace very quickly. You have the franchise headquarters, which would be you. You were then teaching your system to franchise operators who are then reaching a wide variety of customers much faster than if you tried to do it on your own. We say that a lot in the franchising space anyway. Franchising should get you where you want to go faster than if you did it on your own. That statement stands no matter which side of the aisle you're on. If you're a franchisor or you're a franchisee, the relationship has to be mutually beneficial. All right, so what is a franchise disclosure document? If you've done any research into franchising, you've probably heard this term thrown around quite a bit. FDD is the shortened version, and you'll hear it a lot. Every franchisor has to have, create, and maintain this document, and it has to be updated once a year with the Federal Trade Commission. In addition to, there are certain states that will require additional licensing and an additional review period. We call these registration states. Not every state is a registration state. Some are. Kentucky is not. Indiana is. California is. New York is. Alabama is not. So a lot of this may have some bearing on where you decide to offer your franchise. if you do, in fact, decide to franchise your business. So that franchise disclosure document is a government form. You will have an attorney help you write it. You should, because it does have to go through a review process. And there's several items on here that you will be disclosing to your potential franchise customers. So this could be the franchisor. This is everything about you personally, time and business experience. If you've had any bankruptcies, any litigations against the company, all of those things will need to be disclosed in this franchise disclosure document. The cost of the franchise will need to be in this document. We call that the item 7. All of these items, by the way, are mandatory. There's only one that isn't, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But you need to be able to tell your franchise unit owners how much money it's going to cost them to open and run this franchise business. That's not just the franchise fee, that's everything. Federal Trade Commission rules say you need to tell your potential franchise unit owners this breakdown of costs for at least 3 months. Some franchisors will show more, but 3 months is the minimum. Other additional information that will be in this franchise disclosure document that you will have to prepare: obligations for the franchisor or the franchisee, draft contracts of what it's going to look like to come on board into your system, the territory. How are you going to determine territories? If you have a business that is a food related business, right? That's the one most people think of is fast food or quick service restaurants. How are you going to identify a territory? Is that a number of miles, a 2-mile radius, 5-mile radius? Is it a number of individuals or households in a particular area? Those are things you will have to consider and have laid out in a franchise disclosure document before you are ever allowed to sell one of your franchise units. There's a lot of other things that go into this document. Franchise disclosure document is a huge part of being a franchise and being a franchisor. And it's not a one-time thing. You will create this the very first time you decide to call yourself a franchise, but you will then update it at least once a year or anytime there are material changes to your business. So what is a material change? I can think of one that happened in 2020, right? The pandemic hit. That was a material change for a lot of businesses. They had to completely change the way that they operated. Again, with quick service restaurants, they had to shut down in-person dining and go straight to drive-throughs. That created some disruption in their supply chain and their disruption in their service, and it reflected in their franchise performance. So they had to update that franchise disclosure document. Now, I don't expect us to get a pandemic every couple of years, hopefully, but it just gives you an idea of major events that could happen. It could also be the CEO changes, the CEO of your company changes. There's different things. So the franchise disclosure document, if there's one thing to take away from this presentation today, it's you will need this franchise disclosure document. Read and learn everything you can about how to handle this document because it is essentially what you will use to call yourself a franchise. All right. So now that I've scared you a little bit into that franchise disclosure document, let's talk about, is your business even franchisable? And I kind of want to stop here for a minute. If you wouldn't mind sharing in the chat, you don't have to, but it's always great if you're interactive, share with me at least the industry of your particular business that you're considering franchising. And while you're thinking about if you're going to answer that question or not, I'm also going to ask you another one. Do you know when the first franchise, the first modern franchise was created? And I will give you a hint. It was not McDonald's. Yes, so the very first franchise that we consider a modern franchise actually was created in 1888. And it was a woman. Her name was Harper, and she developed the Harper Method beauty shop. So she used to work, she was a servant for a physician at the time. She developed a hair tonic through working that job, decided to open her own beauty shop. And she became the very first person to ever franchise, where she created a brand, a product, training, and ongoing training for her franchise unit owners. And she opened up over in the history of the Harper Method franchises, over 500 units were opened across the United States. She started in Rochester, New York. I just always thought that was really cool. The first franchise was not food, it was actually a beauty salon. It was owned by a woman. And she was Canadian American, born in Canada and raised in Rochester. So I always think that this is a really interesting story that we credit her a lot in franchising with creating the first franchise system, and some of her methods on how she trained her franchisees still exist today. All right, so 3 traits of a franchisable business. Let me check that. Yeah, there's a great movie on our life. I love that. I love some of your all's businesses in this chat. This is awesome. All right, 3 traits of a franchisable business. So be thinking about this as we go through it. Okay, trait number 1, is the concept replicable? Is this something that you can replicate? If you have more than 1 unit of your particular business open already, that's a pretty good indication whether or not it's replicable or not. So can this concept be replicated? Have you opened another unit of the business? Again, good indication. Does the business succeed because of the system or because of you personally? And this can be a little bit of an ego check. If the business is successful because of you, your personality, and your connections, how likely is that to be transferred to someone else in a different state, in a different city, in a different community? Is that really replicable? Or what system do you have that you can then pass on? And then can you articulate what particular skills that business requires to succeed? This can help you really determine what type of franchise owner you would be looking for. So I know it sounds pretty simple, but it's definitely one of the must-haves. Your system has to be replicable for it to be franchisable. Is the business unique or have a unique process? This is trait number 3. And I'm gonna caveat this a little bit. So the product itself doesn't necessarily have to be unique, but something about it has to be unique, right? So McDonald's grilling a hamburger and serving it to customers was not the unique aspect of that business. That became a massive franchise because of their speedy service system. The fact that they were able to deliver you a hamburger and fries in less than 90 seconds and a milkshake. No one had been able to do that before. So what did McDonald's do, and why were they such a massively successful franchise? Because they took an industry that was fragmented and they consolidated and made it better, faster, and quicker for the customer. That was what was revolutionary about them. So another way to say this is, what is your value proposition? It could be a unique thing, right? It can be a unique product or a unique service offering, or it could be delivery of that product or service offering that is unique. But there needs to be something that makes your business replicable and unique, or has a unique value proposition. Also, is the business branded or trademarked? If it's not, can it be? Because that is what people will be paying for when they buy into your franchise, is that trademark, is that brand. Those are the types of things you will need to have ready to go before you consider franchising a business. Okay, so trait number 3, is the business profitable? You need to show profitability in whatever you're currently doing before you should consider franchising. Your first unit will often become the flagship store or concept for others to model. So if it's not successful, you are not going to be successful in getting people to buy into your concept. You have to be able to the proof is in the pudding. You have to be able to show it can work first before you ask others to invest with you to make it work at other places. And do the results match the effort? So that's going to be a big thing. So you can say, yes, I'm profitable, but what is the effort level here to get to that profitability? If your business is not to the point where it's profitable and you cannot quantify the level of effort it takes to get to that profitability point, I would strongly advise you work those things out before you decide to start franchising your business. You want to test it first, right? You're testing this business model to then turn around and sell to other people. You have to have something to put in that franchise disclosure document that shows that this has been tested and proven. All right, so I know those were 3 really quick traits, but those are the big 3. Are you profitable? Is your concept unique, or is your process unique? And can you replicate it? All right. Before I go on, are there any questions before we get to the traits of a franchise concept owner? don't think so yet. Right.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
There's a couple of questions, but I think we can keep those till the end. Let's just keep going.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so 5 traits of a franchise concept owner. So if you have created this business and you now want to franchise it, how do you fit into this model? And do you have the traits necessary to become a franchisor? Trait number 1, this one's really important. Are you currently working in the business or are you leading it? And I'll get to why this is important. If you are still the owner operator of the business, which is fine, you may consider installing a manager or someone else to run that day-to-day business while you figure out how to lead the business itself. Being a franchisor will require you to teach others how to do what you've done. And it's not really possible to do that if you're still in the day-to-day business of the original unit. So part of this is, do you possess good leadership skills? You are effectively becoming a coach and a mentor to your franchise unit owners. Are you able to translate what you've done to other people and then help them be successful in that role, which is every day, all day long, coaching and mentoring? Trait number 2, are you a control freak? Okay, this one you have to be a little bit honest with yourself. I think every entrepreneur is a little bit of a control freak, right? Because we made our business successful, right? We controlled it. If you become a franchisor, you have franchisees, you are giving up some control. Be honest here. Bringing in franchisees means, again, that you are trusting other people to represent your brand. Is that something that you can do? And then you may learn things and need to be able to adjust along the way. So you think you have a phenomenal concept, and you probably do. You open 10 franchise units with 10 of your closest friends. There's going to be things you do not consider. Are you someone that can take that feedback, that criticism, and create a better product moving forward? Again, I don't want to offend anyone, but figure this out first. Bad franchise, there can be phenomenal concepts out there that have fantastic ability. They're replicable, they're profitable, they're great. But the franchisor is not the right person to be leading that organization, and it crashes and burns. Very important to figure out if you have the skill set to do this. And if not, that's fine. Find someone else to do it on your behalf. Trait number 3 goes along with being a control freak. Are you a good communicator? Because again, you're communicating this system to other people. By the way, and some of these other people might be the very first time in business. So there's going to be some nerves and some fear that you're going to be dealing with just from a general human being aspect of going into business. So can you communicate to a wide variety of people across all geographical areas? That's another thing. Going back to, is it replicable? Is your system only replicable in certain situations? Does it need to be in an urban area for it to be a good business model? Or can it be in some of the smaller towns? And if so, that's fine. It just needs to be built into your model that these are the things that you look for in a successful franchise owner. If you yourself are not a great communicator, partner with someone who is a trusted advisor. Go see number 2 about the control freak thing. Number 4, this one's really important. Are you ready to essentially start a whole new business? Because that's what you're doing when you become a franchisor. Franchisor systems that are successful, you don't just license and create your FDD and then sell your franchises and say goodbye. You're with these people throughout the length of their contract with you. So again, you are now not Joe, the sandwich shop owner. You're Joe who coaches and mentors other sandwich shop owners. That's really how franchising works. If you're still the only one working in your business, or you don't have a solid manager to run your business for you, this can really be very daunting. So just think, if you're ready to franchise your business, becoming a franchisor, you are becoming a completely different business owner. Trait number 5, do you have the capital to start and run a franchise system? This one's important. Again, because you're starting a brand new business, you're becoming a franchisor. Yes, you'll start making money through those franchise fees, not really through the franchise fee that gets your franchisor fees in the system, but through those royalty payments. It can be a long game because you're not making money usually until your franchisees are making money. And for them to make money, they have to be up and running in that business that you helped them create. So creating a new franchise system will cost time and it will cost money. I will say deploying a franchise model will also cost money. So you have to think about your marketing efforts to find franchisees. Budget anywhere between $75,000 and $100,000 for that first year is where and that's conservative, honestly. If you can do more, I would do more. Creating a franchise system will also take time. 10 months to a year is probably a pretty reasonable model. So if you are in a position where you're thinking about franchising a business, this is going to take some time and some money to do. The good news is, though, if you have a replicable, profitable, unique system, it can pay dividends. It definitely can be a wealth generator with the right strategy in place. Okay, so how do you build a franchise system? There are several things that you need. You need legal documents, not just the legal documents internally, but between you and a franchise unit. So your contracts. You need your franchise disclosure documents. You need a marketing strategy. So not only are you running your business, Joe's Sandwich Shop, but you also need a marketing strategy to get other people to buy into Joe's Sandwich Shop. See how that's a different business? That's a different strategy. You need a sales process. How are you going to sell your franchise unit? Who's going to want to buy your franchise unit? Who does that person look like? Different strategy. You also need an operations manual. This is what your franchisees are paying for. If you are franchising your business, you are taking all of that knowledge, you're wrapping it up into a document with a bow, and you're giving it to someone else. That is what is critical about an operations manual. If you open another unit of business before, so if you own Joe's Sandwich Shop 1 and you've opened Joe's Sandwich Shop number 2 and number 3, number 4, you have a working operations manual some way. What shape it's in, I don't know, but you have one because you've opened another unit and gone through that process. And you need to create the training and support for owners, for your franchise owners. Is that more documents? Is that a database where they watch training videos? Is that branding and marketing? What is it? So these are just some of the things that you will be doing and thinking about when you're building a franchise system. Additional resources, I know this is very, very quick. Use professional advisors if you're thinking about franchising a business. 1, to help you decide if it's a franchisable business, and then 2, trusted advisors to help you with the actual process of creating it. Attorneys are fantastic. Accountants you will certainly need. Your SBDC coach, they're phenomenal at helping you with all of these aspects, especially with things like cash flow. How are you going to position yourself as a profitable business in that disclosure document? SBDC can certainly help you with that. And then myself. So we are here locally. We are in the franchising world. We will work with you to help you decide, is it a good idea to franchise your business? And then introduce you to people that will go through and do all of these things with you. Again, you need a budget about 10 to 12 months to make all of these things happen, but they will sit down and create all of this information with you to help you start your franchise. So if you are interested in that, I know this is super quick. I wanted to leave a lot of time for questions here. Schedule a call with your SBDC counselor, coach with myself. You can scan that QR code to get my calendar. Let's talk about your individual business and see what we can do. Or you can also go to my website and click schedule a call. Either one of those is fine. I'm gonna leave this contact information up real quick because I know I breezed through it, but I wanted to give you a very high level overview of what we look for when we decide if a franchise is good or not. And then hopefully you can use that information and overlay it on top of what you're considering to franchise and see if those things match. So now that was really quick, at least for me. So I'm going to stop. And is there any questions or any discussions we can have?
Yeah, here's one. So how do you price your franchise? How do you figure that out?
Oh, that's a good question. So price your franchise as in, there's 2 different price ranges that we need to talk about. What is your franchise fee? Well, 3 really. What is your franchise fee? What are the royalties you're going to request from your franchisees, right? And then how much does it cost that franchisee to open and run their business? Now, how much does it cost the franchisee to open and run their business? What did it cost you to open and run this original unit? Start there. How much it's going to cost to a franchisee to actually purchase into your franchise. Almost all franchise fees are the same. There's a formula we use to calculate that, and it'll depend on your business and depend on what you're providing in return. All franchise fees are usually in the same ballpark, and it's to initiate your franchisee into that system. So it's not just you're throwing a dart at a wall. It actually is a calculation. And then your royalties are also going to be a calculation based on your business, on what you're going to give your franchise unit owners. So how do you price your franchise? The non-answer is it depends. But that would require a pretty in-depth conversation about you and your business and what you have already in place.
Okay. And what's the difference between franchising and licensing? Can you talk about that any?
Yeah, we get this question quite a bit as well. So franchising is the whole kit and caboodle. It's everything. It's operations, it's a brand, it's a model. It's kind of a business in a box, right? Licensing is you are registered to use that trademark only. So you can think McDonald's, a lot of HVAC companies, roofing, a lot of those can be franchise systems. Licensing, think Disney. You go to the store and buy a t-shirt with Mickey Mouse on it. Mickey Mouse, or the Disney Corporation did not create that t-shirt. Someone bought the license to use Mickey Mouse's image. Mm-hmm. So it's just the trademark brand and the trademark and registration you're allowed to use. That's what a license is. So it's definitely less structured than a full-fledged franchise system, but you don't get nearly the royalties that you do in the franchise from a franchisor perspective.
Okay. Thank you. That was good. Let's see. Frederick says he wants to franchise his service business in a cost savings in water conservation and water sewer bills by installing one of their devices. He can save a customer 15 to 38% of a bill. And he's thinking about franchising, and also he's thinking about franchising globally. Is that a good solution for a global strategy as well?
So there are franchises that can go global. Depends on what they are. So you can take a cycle bar class in Dubai if you'd like. It's a very successful worldwide franchise. I'm not sure about the water conservation being a global franchise. It would depend on what water system that particular country is using, but from a franchise perspective, there are plenty of franchises out there that their goal is to deal with a service or a product that helps their customers save money. So I definitely think we should talk. Yes.
Interesting. Let's see. Steve has a question about FranNet period. Let's see. Who did FranNet partner with? The company past experience, how many sales agents across the FranNet franchise?
Sorry, I might not understand the question. So FranNet, we have 130-ish people across the US and North America, Canada, and some in Germany. So not sure what the question, but I'll be happy to talk to you about it.
Okay. All right. He also wants to know, what are the fees? Like, let's just say, I guess, if he starts a franchise and you are helping market those other units, I mean, what are the fees involved?
It's going to depend on the scope, but I would budget $75,000 to $100,000 for the initial package. Yep, to get everything up and running, get your documents together, all of those. Again, that'll depend, but consultations are free. So let's have a conversation and at least see if it's possible for you and if it's in the right stage where you're at.
Okay. Let's see. Carla says, my business could be mobile. Should I care of multiple franchise crossing over due to it being close to each other?
It will depend on your business specifically. So there are franchise agents without a territory at all, but their value proposition or their franchisees has to be pretty strong for them not to get a protected territory. There are some franchise units that are very successful where the actual customer is considered the territory and not a geographical location. We see this a lot in things like property management franchises where I may work with Dave and he may live here in Louisville and I may live here in Louisville, but Dave might have rental property in Tennessee and West Virginia. I'm not constrained by that as a franchise owner in that system. So it's going to depend on how you build it. The most important thing when it comes to franchising, though, it has to be consistent. It has to be the same for everyone. Franchising regulations Everyone has to get the same fair deal and the same more or less terms. Things can go up and down due to inflation, things like that. There can be minor changes, but whatever you do for one, you have to do for all.
If let's say I'm just beginning to think about this as a strategy, what would be the first step to get my business ready? And you went through a couple high level ones, but what would you tell me to do on day one to start thinking about?
I would see if you can replicate it first. Can you open another unit somewhere else, whether that's mobile, bring on someone on board, install a manager in operations in a different city? Can you do it? And is it profitable when you do it? That's a really good indication if it's franchisable or not. I would have a couple of units open as your test market just to see.
Okay. Let's see. I think that's all the questions they've posted here. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll get to it. So the other services that you guys provide, let's say, for example, that I'm a franchise, or you would help market my franchise to interested parties, correct?
Correct.
How does that work?
Yes. So we are, FranNet is a franchise system that helps other people find franchises as well. So if you are a franchisor and you're interested in using us to help you find franchisees for your system, we do have a process you go through. There are fees involved in that. I would put you in touch with my franchisor who would help you decide which is right for you, or if you're right for our system. Not everyone needs to have a consultancy system help them with marketing their franchise, and it's going to depend on what your budget is. So McDonald's doesn't need us to help them find franchises, right? Everyone's McDonald's, and it's a very visible product, but others may benefit from our services. So reach out to me for sure if you're a franchisor and you're looking to get into this franchise network. We can certainly work with you on that.
Okay. And you have resources, some of the hard stuff like putting together the operations manual and things like that. I mean, you can point us in the right direction and give us the resources to help get that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that price range I gave you, 75 to 100 grand. There are different packages we can build with our connections that will do everything for you, or just certain things depending on what you already have available. That's why I always say, try to open one unit first, another unit, and then remember everything that you just did, because that's eventually going to become your operations manual, right? Like, write it all down. And then tweak it along the way. And that's a big part of what you're going to be creating when you become a franchise system.
Oh, it sounds so easy, Amanda.
Super easy, Dave. It's super easy.
Oh, yeah. So I think that's all the questions we have. So Amanda, I really want to thank you for coming back again and sharing this. This has been great. I think that franchising is a great opportunity to grow your business. And actually, I think also maybe you can just speak on this a little bit, but even going through the prepping up for a franchise launch, and then you decide not to franchise, I mean, your business would be 200% stronger by just going through that process. Would you not agree?
I completely agree, because if you're growth minded, if you want to grow your business, franchising is one way to grow it, but maybe you get into it and decide franchising is not it. You just want to open more corporate locations. You've just created for yourself a plug and play situation. Maybe you want to retain control over all of that, but you're going to be able to grow faster and stronger and just really expand very, very quickly by going through the process of getting all those documents and training manuals and operations manuals in order. Yeah, for sure.
Got one question just popped up. Steve owns Gentleman's Cut, and he says it meets all the criteria you spoke about today, Amanda. He says, I have 2 units and own center stage in our market. We are looking into operating a 3rd location this year, opening a 3rd location if the labor market improves. Would like to know, oh yeah, I remember you guys. Yeah, it says I'd like them to know that I helped them get started about 18 years ago. Jesus, has it been that long?
That's
Wow.
awesome. I will tell you, Gentleman's Cut, I've been there. I haven't personally been there, but I have a client that goes there. My business partner went there. He loves that place. And I have always gone in there going, I would franchise this. So you need to call me, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve, you got a great business. You should look into that. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yep. All right. Well, again, Amanda, thanks for joining us today. This has been really great. Let me make sure that we don't have anything else pop up. No. We're all good. Yep. All right. Amanda, thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Hopefully you've all found this at least a little bit informative and it gives you some things to think about. If I can be of any assistance in any franchising realm, whether you want one, want to franchise one, just want to have a conversation about them, please give me a call. I'm more than happy to talk you through it.
I encourage you to do that. Amanda's a great resource. She's a super expert on all this stuff and you should take advantage of it. And as always, we'll send you this recording later on today. And I think you'll get a little survey there. Tell us how we did, how we can improve. That was very helpful to us. So thank you, Amanda. And thanks for joining us today. And we'll see you next time on another Toolkit Tuesday. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.